Okay, so you want to own a coffee shop. Find a corner space, buy the machine, watch the morning line form. And the math looks incredible. Starbucks makes $36 billion a year, more than the GDP of Iceland. 40,000 locations worldwide, every single one running on the same simple idea. Buy beans cheap, sell the drink expensive. A $5 latte costs the shop 80 cents, 85% margin on every cup. A grocery store lives on 25%. A software company considers 85 an excellent result. A coffee shop gets that on every drink, dozens of times an hour, every single day. Except in January 2026, the Washington, D.C. chain Compass Coffee was auctioned off in its entirety. The name, the equipment, every location, for $2,900,000. Less than it cost to build 4 of their own shops. They had lines out the door, their own roastery, and customers who loved the place. In this video, where those 85% disappear between the counter and the bank account, why the most loyal regular is statistically the one draining the business, and why a coffee shop isn't the business it's assumed to be. Start with this. A coffee shop comes in 4 formats, and they're 4 different businesses. A home kitchen operation costs almost nothing to start, but its ceiling is written into the law. A drive-through stand runs $80,000 to $150,000, 200 square feet in a parking lot, a window, nowhere to sit, a line of cars. A neighborhood cafe with seating runs $150,000 to $250,000, brick, Wi-Fi, plants, everything people picture. And a flagship with a real kitchen starts at $300,000 to $400,000. From the street, they look nearly identical. And here's the question most people get wrong. Which of those 4 formats actually makes the most money? The answer comes in a few minutes, and it isn't the obvious one. First, what it takes to get in. The space comes first. If the previous tenant left commercial plumbing, a grease trap, and ventilation behind, that's luck. If it's a bare shell, the build-out runs $90,000 to $180,000. Then equipment. The espresso machine, $5,000 for entry-level commercial, $22,000 for a 2-group La Marzocco. Add grinders, refrigeration, a brewer, a register, furniture, another $30,000 to $60,000. Then the landlord's deposit. First month, last month, and 1 to 3 months security up front. 1,000 square feet in a major city runs $3,000 to $7,000 a month, which makes the deposit $10,000 to $36,000 for an empty room that still belongs to someone else. Then paperwork, permits, inspections, licenses, opening inventory. An average independent coffee shop opens for $150,000 to $250,000. And there's a 5th line that rarely makes it into the business plan. Another $60,000 to $100,000 in cash that can't be spent. It just sits there. Because a new coffee shop needs 6 to 18 months to reach steady profitability. And every one of those months, rent arrives on schedule, payroll arrives on schedule, supplier invoices arrive on schedule, regardless of whether the regulars have found the place yet. Picture month 7, Tuesday, raining, $400 in sales all day, and at 6:15 in the morning, the espresso machine starts leaking. The technician quotes $8,000. That's the moment that decides whether the place survives until spring. The ones that make it aren't the ones with better coffee. They're the ones who had that $100,000 sitting there and the discipline not to touch it. Now the real question, where does the money actually come from? The arithmetic is beautiful. Coffee, 30 to 50 cents. Milk, 40 to 60. Cup, lid, napkin, 30. About $1.20 against $5 in revenue. $3.80 stay in the shop on every drink. It's the prettiest number in the business. It's also completely fake. Here's the easiest way to see it. Imagine the shop doesn't sell coffee at all. Imagine it rents out chairs. 1,500 square feet, $60,000 a year in rent, whether anyone sits down or not. A 4-top with clearance takes about 30 square feet, so that one table costs $1,000 a year simply to exist. And it has to earn that back. Now 2 customers both order the same $5 latte. The first waits 90 seconds and leaves. The second opens a laptop, takes the table by the window, and sits 3 hours on someone else's Wi-Fi, electricity, and heat. Same drink, same money. One customer brought profit, the other brought a loss. The first generated $5.90 and freed the seat. The second generated $5 in 3 hours and held a table through the most profitable window of the day. Per square foot per hour, the first is worth roughly 120 times more, and that's where the romance breaks. The second customer is the regular, the one who says hello by name, the one who makes the room feel alive, the one the whole thing was started for. Statistically, he's the most expensive person in the building. So much for the math. Now the architecture. What's in an ordinary coffee shop? Soft chairs, free Wi-Fi, outlets at every table, a playlist somebody spent a weekend on, warm light, plants, a couch in the corner. Every one of those things makes people stay longer. A casino has no windows and no clocks, because it's fighting for the visitor's time. Time converts into money there. A coffee shop does the exact opposite. It builds the most comfortable possible environment and gives away its main asset, floor space, for free. The casino built a machine that takes money by the hour. The coffee shop built a machine that gives those hours away and calls it hospitality, which answers the question about the 4 formats. The ugliest one wins. 2 shops on the same street. The first is 1,500 square feet of brick and plants, 11 people on laptops, 2 of whom bought something. The second is a 200 square foot box by a parking lot, a window, and a line of cars. Nobody sits, nobody lingers. Every square foot does nothing but move customers through. The box pays 1/10 of the rent and rings up 3 times the transactions. The pretty shop wins every photograph. The ugly one wins the year. Then there's the clock. 30 to 40% of daily revenue lands between 10 and noon. Staff, rent, lights, and heat get paid for 12 hours to capture a 2-hour rush. And from 2 to 5 in the afternoon comes the silence that tests whether the fixed costs are small enough to survive it. So the entire revenue model fits in one line. Average ticket times transactions per hour times hours of real traffic times the square footage being paid for. And almost everything in a beautiful cafe works against 3 of those 4 numbers. So with margins like that, why do owners still lose money? Because of everything else. Out of every dollar through the register, 75 to 85 cents disappear before anyone sees them. Labor takes 28 to 35% of revenue. The barista gets paid whether or not anyone orders that latte. Rent takes 10 to 14%, and that ceiling is rigid. Above 14, the math simply doesn't work. Not harder doesn't work. And the lease is signed for 5 years. One signature on one afternoon locks the business into 60 months inside a calculation that never worked to begin with. Card processing takes about 3% of every transaction. On a $5 ticket, that bites harder than almost anywhere in retail. The fee scales with the amount, and the amount is always small. Then come the things nobody plans for. The milk that got steamed and poured out, the pastries nobody bought. Equipment service, a commercial espresso machine, is a pressurized boiler running 12 hours a day, and it never breaks at a convenient time. Water filtration, without which both the machine and the flavor die. What's left of the $5? 12 to 50 cents. 85% at the counter becomes 2.5 to 15% in the account. The margin gives a beautiful top line. Everything underneath it is a fist fight. That fight is where most owners lose. But first, it's worth understanding what's actually outside anyone's control here, because it's nearly everything. Arabica recently climbed to $4.40 a pound, noticeably above its 5-year average. Weather, tight supply, speculation. Then trade policy stepped in, and imports from Brazil, the largest producer in the world, fell 46% in a single month. And there's no backup plan. Coffee doesn't grow in Ohio. The core raw material of the business comes exclusively from places where no influence exists and never will. Meanwhile, oat milk now accounts for 30 to 40% of milk-based orders and more than half at premium shops. It costs noticeably more than dairy. A 75-cent upcharge doesn't cover the gap, and drink margin quietly settles 2 or 3 points lower. For a shop doing $500,000 in revenue, that's $10,000 to $15,000 a year dissolved by a shift in taste. Which makes for an interesting list. The price of beans, weather in Brazil and decisions in Washington. The price of milk, a trend nobody chose. Rent, a landlord 5 years ahead. Wages, the labor market. 19 states raised the minimum on the same January morning in 2026. And the price ceiling is set by a plain fact. At $7, people stop buying lattes. Every cost rises. The one source of income is locked. Now the 2 mistakes. Almost every loud failure in this business comes down to one of them. Mistake 1. Growth. Back to Compass Coffee. In 2020, the founders put together an investor deck with a plan. 156 locations by 2027, then an IPO, real lines, their own roastery, loyal customers. In January 2026, the whole thing sold at auction for $2,900,000. A month earlier, the Blend Coffee and Cocktails filed for bankruptcy after opening 8 locations in 4 years. The expansion itself created costs the business couldn't carry. You can't build a chain on the assumption that the second location performs like the first. It almost never does. And the thing that kills the business looks like success right up until the end. Mistake 2. Becoming your own competitor. In 2008, Starbucks closed 600 US locations and cut up to 12,000 jobs. The detail that matters? About 70% of the closed shops had opened after 2006, and most stood near another Starbucks. Nobody defeated them. They opened so many locations they started taking customers from themselves. Same-store sales fell for the first time in company history. Schultz came back and shut every American store for one evening to retrain baristas on pulling a shot. The company that invented the modern coffee shop lost count of its own locations. That says something about how narrow the margin for error is here. Step back, and the picture turns out to be a paradox. A coffee shop has one of the cleanest product margins in retail. Nowhere else can you buy something for 80 cents, sell it for 5, and get customers who come back voluntarily every morning. A restaurant fights for a guest twice a month. A coffee shop gets the same person 200 times a year. And independent coffee shops close in droves. The reason is that product margin only works with enough flow through a small enough room. Rent doesn't bend. Wages don't bend. Raising prices in a bad year is impossible because at $7, people walk. Which means everything outside the cup has to be flawless. The lease, the hours, the number of seats, the afternoon. The margin on the drink is bulletproof. Everything built around it isn't. So what did the survivors do? They stopped behaving like a place that sells coffee. You feel it the moment you walk in. Fewer soft chairs, more counter seating and 2 tops, a real kitchen instead of a pastry case because a sandwich nearly doubles the ticket. A shelf of retail beans by the register, margin walking out in someone's bag. In the back, someone's packing wholesale orders for 3 restaurants and an office, money that arrives monthly and doesn't care about the weather. And at 6 in the evening, when an ordinary cafe empties out, the lights change and they start pouring wine. None of that makes the coffee better. Every one of those decisions raises revenue per customer or per square foot without touching the rent. Because rent doesn't care how good the espresso is. Time to put it together. How much is there to earn doing this right? 2 scenarios. First, a neighborhood cafe in a mid-sized city, $210,000 invested, $150,000 into build-out and equipment, $60 into reserve. Rent $3,000 a month. By year 2, $700 to $900 a day, which is $250,000 to $320,000 a year. At 10% net, that's $25,000 to $32,000. Run well, at 15%, $37,000 to $48,000. And here's the detail usually left out. That's before the owner's salary. In year 1, it comes out of that same number. So, $210,000 invested, 6 days a week starting at 6 in the morning, first one in and last one out. And the business pays about what a decent salaried job pays. Except no job requires a personal guarantee on a 5-year lease. Second scenario, a flagship in a high-traffic location. $400,000 invested, 1,500 square feet, a full kitchen. By year 3, $600,000 to $900,000 in revenue and $60,000 to $135,000 in profit. The best independents in major markets clear $1 million and change, with margins of 15% to 20%. And here the casino story repeats itself. At that level, most of the money no longer comes from coffee. It comes from food, beans on the shelf, wholesale contracts, and the evening menu. A mature coffee shop is a small food operation that uses coffee as the lure to pull people in every morning. So the main rule of this business goes like this. The 85% margin was the bait, exactly like the smell at the door. Compass had the customers. Starbucks had an entire country. Neither one lost on the coffee. Nobody here was ever selling coffee. They were renting out a room, 1 cup at a time. So charge for the room,